You know, for all of human history, life has been this thing we're a part of, something we study, but never something we actually create. Well, that's all changing. Today, we are diving into one of the most incredible, mind-bending frontiers in all of science, the ability to design and literally build life from scratch.
And no, this is not science fiction. That's a direct quote from a scientist right at the edge of this revolution. It captures this huge shift, right? We've gone from being just characters in the story of evolution to, well, to becoming its authors. So, what does that actually mean?
You see, the very act of building organisms in a lab forces us to ask a question that we thought we had figured out a long time ago. What even is life? Suddenly, the answer isn't so simple anymore.
I mean, just look at this. This lays out exactly how big of a change we're talking about. For thousands of years, life was, well, it was organic. It was birthed by nature, shaped slowly by evolution. That was it. But the future we're walking into, it's totally different. Life can be synthetic, built in a lab, and guided by our own specific designs. This isn't just a tiny step forward. It's a complete reimagining of what biology can be.
So how is any of this even possible, right? How do you actually go from an idea on a computer to a living, breathing, well, maybe not breathing, but a living, functioning organism? It all comes down to learning how to speak biology's native language.
The field that's making all of this happen is called synthetic biology, and its whole mission is to make biology into a real engineering discipline. So we're not just talking about tweaking what's already there. We're talking about redesigning organisms for brand new purposes, or even creating entirely new ones that nature never dreamed of.
Okay, here's the best way to think about it, and it's a really powerful analogy. Just imagine that DNA, the blueprint for all life, is basically software. It's just lines of code. And the cell itself, that's the hardware. It's the little biological computer that reads the code and follows its instructions. So if you can write the code, you can program that machine to do pretty much anything you want.
And the process itself, when you break it down, is almost deceptively simple. It happens in 3 steps. First, you design. Scientists write out the genetic code they want on a computer, just like a software developer writing an app. Then, step 2, you print. They use chemical machines to actually build a physical strand of DNA based on that digital file. And finally, step 3, you insert. You take that brand new synthetic DNA and pop it into a host cell. The cell then basically boots up and starts running its new biological software.
All right, so we get the how. But let's talk about the why. Why are we doing this? Well, the potential uses for this tech are absolutely staggering. We are talking about custom-built solutions for some of the biggest problems humanity has ever had.
Just take a look at this list. Seriously, imagine programming bacteria to clean up oil spills or literally eat the plastic that's choking our oceans. Or what about growing meat in a lab, slashing the environmental cost of farming? We could have organisms designed to create clean energy, or synthetic yeast that acts like a tiny factory, churning out life-saving vaccines and medicines. The promise here is huge: a healthier, cleaner, more sustainable world.
But, and there is always a but with something this powerful, for every incredible promise, there's a pretty serious risk we have to confront. And this is where the whole conversation gets really complicated. Let's start with a big one: ownership. If a company designs and builds a totally new organism, do they own it? I mean, can you actually put a patent on life itself? This brings up this future where a few powerful companies could literally monopolize the building blocks of biology, turning life into just another commodity.
And then you've got the whole Pandora's box problem. We engineer these things in a super controlled lab environment, but what if they get out? A microbe that eats plastic sounds like a miracle, right? But if it escapes and starts munching on things it's not supposed to, you could trigger an ecological disaster that we just can't undo.
And this brings us to the deepest, most fundamental question of all. For billions of years, evolution was a natural process, totally out of our hands. By stepping in and becoming the designers, are we crossing some kind of line we shouldn't? This is a huge moral debate that science alone can't answer. Are we being brilliant innovators, or are we getting too powerful for our own good?
So, where does all this lead? Well, the thing is, the future of synthetic life isn't set in stone. It's not just one single outcome. The path we actually end up going down will be a direct result of the choices we make right now, as scientists, as policymakers, and frankly, as a society.
So the first possible future, let's call it the best-case scenario, the healing world.
This is the world where we use this tech for the good of everyone. We cure diseases that have plagued us for centuries, we create enough food to end hunger, and we design organisms that actually heal our damaged planet. It's the utopian vision.
Okay, path number 2 is a bit more dystopian. This is the future of corporate control. This is what happens if that whole patent question goes the wrong way. Life becomes just another product on a shelf. A few giant biotech companies control the code of life, creating a world of biological haves and have-nots.
And then there's the third future. This is the one that keeps scientists up at night. The chaos scenario. This is the world where our ambition just gets ahead of our caution. An engineered organism gets out of the lab, or maybe it's released on purpose, and it triggers something awful. A new pandemic, a total ecosystem collapse, a biological disaster on a global scale.
You know, when you boil it all down, this whole journey forces us to really look at ourselves. By taking control of the code of life out there, we are fundamentally changing our own role in the world. We're not just another species anymore. We're becoming the shapers of nature itself.
So I want to leave you with this question to think about, because this isn't just for scientists in a lab anymore. It's a question for all of us. If you had the power to design a new form of life, what would you create? Would you try to solve a problem? Create something beautiful? Just explore what's possible. The future of life is no longer being written by nature alone. It's being written by us. And the first step is deciding what story we want to tell.